You're listening to Morning Edition on 89.3 WFPL. I'm Bill Burton. Russell Gold is a journalist with a focus on environmental issues. He writes about the transition from fossil fuels to renewables, and he's going to be speaking at a World Affairs Council event in the World in Transition series this Thursday. He joins us now to talk about his work. Welcome, Russell.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You've written a couple of books on the transition. One was called The Boom, about fracking. The other is called Superpower. It's a look at wind energy, and it's focusing mostly on Michael Skelly and his effort to make wind energy more viable. Who is Skelly, and what makes him so important to wind energy?
Sure. Michael Skelly is a Houston energy entrepreneur. He was a wind developer in the 2000s. And then, right about 2010, he sat down and asked a really basic question. And that was, if we're going to accelerate the use of renewable energy, what do we need to do? And his answer was, we need to build more big transmission lines. And it's for a very simple reason. There are parts of this country which are phenomenally good for making wind energy and solar energy. They just happen to not be where a lot of people in cities are. So if you can build more the giant transmission lines, you can deliver clean, affordable energy from one part of the country to another and essentially stitch the country together. And that was his dream. That was his company.
Our own environment reporter, Ryan Van Velzer, recently reported that Louisville Gas and Electric initiated the development of 2 new natural gas power plants, but never made any mention of those to state regulators. And just last year, it was LG&E that said current trends don't support new natural gas plants because of carbon emissions. So how do we transition to a cleaner energy when we have energy companies doing things like this?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. One thing people need to know is that when we build energy infrastructure, it's going to be around for 20, 30 years. If you build a new natural gas plant right now, it will be continuing to run probably through 2060. So we need to be very careful about what we're building right now. And a lot of times people look at wind and solar and they still have this conception that it's this, it'd be nice to have, but it's very expensive and it's not reliable. And in some ways, that couldn't be further from the truth. Wind and solar is some of the least expensive megawatts that are available right now on the grid. That's been a huge change from 10 years ago.
And it's not just the energy companies that can be dragging their feet in these situations. Politicians, of course, play a major role in the transition, too. Where do we stand politically at the moment? Are you seeing movement in Congress or various state houses when it comes to clean energy?
Well, the Inflation Reduction Act, which was passed by Congress a couple of months ago, has a huge number of tax credits and incentives to build renewable energy, to build batteries, to build all of the building blocks to get to a cleaner grid and a cleaner future. So, at this point, the federal government has really provided, rocket fuel for this. The question that I think remains is, will there be other ways, other barriers put up, local regulatory battles, political hurdles, and that really remains to be seen.
What about big business? How are they feeling about this right now? If they get on board, would that be one of the last things that could help push this over the top?
Well, when you talk about big business, it's not a monolith anymore. You have very large companies like Nextera out of Florida, one of the largest utilities in the country, which has made huge business building wind and solar. And you have companies, Google, Facebook, even Mars, the candy company, who've made enormous commitments to run their factories off renewable energy and have bought and have financed large wind farms and solar farms across the country.
Russell Gold, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.